Hello, everybody. Today, I'm very excited to announce my guest. He's an 8-year NFL veteran, an Emmy Award winner, and a grill master for his own brand, Grilling with McMillian. Mr. Mark McMillian, how are we doing today, brother?
Oh man, I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on. I know we've been going back and forth through Instagram for a while, so it's finally good that we're able to link up and catch up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited to have you on the show. So first and foremost, we got to rep the hometown. So tell us a little bit about your hometown and what makes it so unique.
I grew up in California, LA, and in the mean streets of South Central. Growing up, I have, it's five of us. I have two older sisters, Beverly and Trina. I have an older brother, Raymond, and a younger brother, Reggie. We grew up in a household that was surrounded by loving grandparents and a loving mom, who continuously, follows my footsteps and always encourages me. My mom's late in her 70s and she's still spunky, man. She's got the juice. She encourages me every day, man. When you think like, man, I really don't feel like doing it, but then you get a call from your mom who's been there, done that, and she's out shopping or walking around the block. It's like, man, I can't sit here and just lay around and do anything. So, man, my family and close friends and teammates, man, are a big inspiration to me, and obviously my faith in God and having Randall Cunningham and Byron Evans, who I played with in Philadelphia, be some of my big brothers and mentors, man, helps me through a lot of things as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a great support system to have. There's no better support system than your family and close friends, for sure. You're rocking that Alabama shirt. So you got to tell us about your recruiting process out of high school and how you ended up at Bama.
It was crazy, man. A lot of people really don't know. I only played 1 year of high school football, my senior year. Freshman, sophomore, junior, I was just a guy in the stands, cheering on my guys. And, I was small and it's like, man, there's no way I can get out there with those guys. Those guys are huge. And, my senior year, my mom was like, hey, you've always talked about how good you are. And, you talk about dreams of playing in the National Football League, growing up playing rough touch football in the front yard with my brothers and my homeboys. And, I just went out for the team. And I think it was probably week 4 or 5. I was just, a special teams guy, just happened to be out there. And the guy that was in front of me ended up going down with a torn ACL. And, he was probably going to be one of the top, 200 guys in the nation. The other guy on the other side was Deion Lambert, who ended up going to UCLA on the full ride and ended up playing in the National Football League as well. So both of those guys were really good athletes. And I was just out there just with a jerry curl, just trying to make it, man. And, I got an opportunity to play in like 5 or 6 games, and it didn't pan out to be a scholarship. I knew I wasn't going to get a scholarship just playing a few games, but, I was a track guy. And, I ended up running track as well, winning the city, breaking the school record in the 100 and the 200 at Kennedy High School in California, and went on to junior college, Glendale Junior College. Went there, was a rough road at first, I came in, I think it's probably like 5'7", 100 and maybe 35 pounds. And, they were ranked, I think, like number 3 in the nation. We had a really good program. Coach Torres and Coach John Sacudo was the head coaches there. Speaking of John Sacudo, he was actually roommates with Andy Reid in college. So, man, it's great to see Andy in the big game. I know we'll probably talk about that, but just going there for 2 years and, just grinding, man. JUCO is a grind, man. It's, I always send out, messages on social media. These kids get hyped. They get like 30 or 40 offers. And now you see the transfer portal. Kids are transferring like it's hotcakes. It's almost, same thing in the National Football League. And, I just took the rough road, man, and said, hey, if I'm going to make it, I got to hone my craft and humble myself and be ready for that opportunity when it comes. And my freshman year, I did okay. End up preseason All-American my sophomore year, which I have no idea how that happened after, playing like 6 or 7 games as a freshman. And, that kind of opened my eyes, like, man, people are really noticing what I'm doing. And out of all the JUCOs in America, it's like, man, I was a preseason All-American, which is still kind of crazy to me, because I was like, I didn't think I was that good. Yeah. So, had a great sophomore year. End up being an All-American, had a full ride scholarship to the University of Pitt. And, Coach Mike Godfrey was the head coach, really good guy. I took my trip. I loved it up there. And then, obviously things took a turn for the worse because I forgot about my educational part. And, I ended up needing a C to get my AA to qualify and graduate. And the teacher came in, man, I brought the teacher flowers and candy before the test. I was trying to butter her up. I was like, man, there's no way. All I need is a C. I'm good. I'm going to college. I'm the first guy. I'm on an athletic scholarship. I'm living up my dream. And she comes in the office and, she said, the best I can do is give you a D.
Dang.
And I was like, man, I'm thinking like we just had a party, going away party. All my bags are packed. And, I just broke down crying, man. And, because I only not let myself down. I let my college down. I let my teammates down. I let my college, my coaches. But most of all, man, I let my mom down. And, that was probably tougher than anything. Seeing your mom cry, not because she's happy, but because, she's just disappointed. And I was in control of that. And, I made a pact to myself. I said, man, the next time my mom cries over me will be tears of joy. So I had to suck up my bootstraps, swallow my pride, newspapers coming out. He's a failure. He's not going to make it. I had to go back the whole semester just to complete that one class and end up getting a B in the class.
There you go.
So I knew I could apply myself and get it done. And after that, my recruiting opened back up, and, Coach Bill Curry from the University of Alabama, sends out AJ Kristoff at the time was our recruiting coordinator. And he comes in, he said, hey, when you see some film on Mark McMillian, and I'm looking at my coach, I'm like, wait a minute, they just played a national championship game in New Orleans against Miami. Like, why would they come way to California to get a guy 5'7", 140? And, it just took my trip down there and liked what I saw. I had an opportunity to see Derek Thomas, Keith McCants, Saran Stacy. We had a lot of guys on that team that ended up getting drafted. And, I had a good time down there, man. And it just worked out for the better. Obviously, when I got there, Coach Curry got fired.
Oh, geez.
And, from the time I left LAX to I landed in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I walk in the dorm room, Brian Hall, and everybody's like crying and upset. I'm like, what are you guys upset about? I know you lost the game, but, it's Alabama. We'll be all right. And they was like, man, you didn't hear the news? And I was like, what news? It was like, Coach Curry just got fired. I was like, oh, come on, bro. I was like, man, I'll start crying again. I went to my dorm room. I was like, Mom, I need to come home. And Mom was like, nah, baby, you ain't coming back here. So, you better tough it up. So, that was just part of the story there. And, Coach Stallings ended up being my head coach, which probably one of the better coaches I had through, high school, college, and the professional ranks, man. He's a man's man. He's a coach's coach. He puts up with no bull crap. And, he ran a tight ship, and, it kind of molded me into, still today, the way I coach kids and mentor kids.
Yeah, for sure. And, yeah, man, Alabama, they groom some of the best talent in the world, even still to this day, even back then, So with that being said, you were a 10th round pick back in the day when there were a lot of drowns. So you were a 10th round pick back by the Philadelphia Eagles back in 1992. So what were you doing when you were drafted, and kind of what was that process like for you?
Pick number 272. I'll never forget that number, man. My memory is not as good as it used to be, but I always remember that number 272. That was the pick I was drafted at. And, just going through the pro day, I didn't get invited to any all-star games, no combines. And, I just locked myself away in our gym for like a month and just practice on my speed and the combine drill. So I knew when our pro day came, I was going to open some eyes. And I remember this vividly, getting on the scale at like 145 or something like that. And Ozzie Newsome, I'm thinking like, man, that's Ozzie Newsome. He went to Alabama. He's a wizard. He's going to give me an opportunity. He looks at me. It's like, man, there's no way you're going to make it in the National Football League. You're too small. And I took that real personal. And I said some things I shouldn't have said, to a grown man. But, I figured like, man, I started 2 years in the SEC. What else do I got to do? So, I just took that out and busted out the combine, and round one went by, no phone call. Saran Stacy, I think he went in the second round. He was our running back there. Kevin Turner, who recently passed away of ALS, he got drafted as well. And I think it was probably like day number 4. And I'm looking like, what the heck? And I'm looking at all these guys getting drafted in front of me that I know I'm better than these guys. And, you know, I go in the gym and, you know, Robert Ory and James Robinson, they were there. They were on the basketball team. And I go in, I'm just like, man, I need to blow off some steam. So, you know, they come in and, you know, we're shooting around. It's like, oh, man, I heard you got drafted, you know, trying to be funny. I didn't think it was funny. So, you know, I got pissed off and went back to my my apartment that I had. And, you know, I'm looking at the ticker and I'm thinking like, man, you got to be freaking kidding. We're in round 9 and nothing. Jeez. And, you know, I was like, God dang, like, I think it was only 11 rounds or something like that, 11 or 12. And I was like, man, there's just this guy got drafted in front of me. And I'm like, phone rings and they say, hey, you know, this is the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to draft you. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at the phone, I'm like, man, no way. It's like, and I hung up the phone. And I was like, okay. And I'm still looking at ESPN, looking at the guys, and I see my name come across the bottom of the ticker, you know, Mark McMillian, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the phone rings again. And it's like, hey, you know, this is Peter Junta from the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to draft you in a, you know, and I'm thinking like, what? And I was like, I'm sorry I hung up. You know, there was something, you know, I had to do real fast. I just made up some kind of bull crap excuse. But, you know, it just worked out like that, man. And it couldn't have picked a better team to get drafted on. You know, you had Randall Cunningham, you had Reggie White, you know, you had some really good names, Jerome Brown, you know, Herschel Walker. There were some really good guys on that team.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, kind of mentioning Randall Cunningham a little bit, you ended up winning an Emmy Award, man, on his show. So kind of break down how that came about and, yeah, kind of your experience winning an Emmy Award.
I guess I've always had like a little charisma, I guess, behind the camera. You know, usually just in talking, I'm kind of laid back. I just let things just happen. I really don't talk about myself, not unless I'm on social media. I could be a king behind those social media tweets and all that. But, you know, normally, man, I'm just the job was presented to us like, hey, you know, you guys want to do a little big man segment? It was me and Jeff Seidner. And we're like, what is that? And the guy, Mark Jordan, said, hey, man, I'll do the writing. You guys just read the scripts and just go through the annex and we'll be all right. So I was like, okay, we'll just ride with it. And every week we picked a little big man play of the week or player of the week, which Barry Sanders back then was winning like all the time, you know, because he was one of the guys that fit that 5'8", 5'9" stature. And, you know, it just took off, man. And we ended up having a all little big man team. We gave these guys like plaques with their faces on it. And, you know, all our TV affiliates, CBS affiliates had their guys, you know, present them with the plaque. So it was like really legit. And then, you know, when the awards and stuff start coming out, my guy's like, hey, guy, we freaking won an Emmy. And I'm thinking like, first of all, I'm like, what the hell, an Emmy? I was like, all we did was just, you know, do a show and do some clips. But, you know, people really bought into it, man. And it just blew up. And then Sports Illustrated did an article on me as well about the show and winning an Emmy. So, man, I'm real proud about that, man. I know a lot of people see that as like, you won an Emmy? Like, doing what? So I was like, man, I had a sports show, you know, and Randall wasn't happy about that because it was part of our segment. We ended up beating him out for the Emmy Award.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do, my man.
Yeah.
So following your career with the Eagles, you spent time with the best team in the NFL, obviously, the New Orleans Saints, Kansas City Chiefs, 49ers, the Washington Redskins. They're now the Washington football team. Kind of what was it like playing for multiple teams? And what was your favorite one of those stops besides the Eagles to play for?
I think each team taught me a lesson, you know, to really appreciate that, you know, this game is not for long. And, you know, you can't take it for granted. Everybody's not going to play, you know, 9, 10, 15 years. And for me to have that, be able to break into the league and be successful. So teams really took me seriously. When I hit the free agent market, it wasn't like, man, I'm just sitting around waiting. It was like, you know, people really wanted my service. And even going to New Orleans, you know, playing under Coach Jim Mora. Obviously, I'm still really good friends with Jim Mora Jr. We talk all the time. You know, he's like a really good mentor to me. And, you know, that was a lesson. And, you know, through that season we had, man, you know, his dad actually stepped down in the middle of the season. Oh. And we're thinking like, man, you know, he's telling us to fight every day and you know, we're freaking getting after it and never quit. And, you know, I don't know really the reason why he stepped down. Probably because he was burned out because he had some really good teams, but he never can win that playoff game. And that was just eating away at him. And just going there. And, then Mike Ditka comes in and he's like, I don't want any small guys. I never even said one word to Mike, not even one word. We never spoke. I heard everything just through the news, and everybody's like, man, did you hear the news? Like, what? It's like Mike said he doesn't want any small defensive backs, so he's going to draft some bigger, stronger guys. And I knew the writing was on the wall, so I told my agent, I was like, man, just get me out of here, whatever it takes. And I just signed a really good deal. Like back then, that was a really good deal, and I'm thinking like, there's a lot of $1 million on the table that he's costing me. It wasn't my fault. They brought me there, but it worked out. Went to Kansas City. Played under Marty Schottenheimer, played alongside Derek Thomas, was always a dream. Like, man, I get to play Derek Thomas. I grew up watching Marcus Allen. I walk in the locker room, I had a Marcus Allen football card. He was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. I was like, no, I am dead serious. Can you please sign my football card? So, and we ended up playing against the Saints. And, that game, I think I had like 2 interceptions. Broke a record in Kansas City held by Hall of Famer Emmett Thomas.
Oh, I know, man. I know.
And it was a really good game, and I was just really pissed off, the way he handled it, and I let him know that. And that game, a lot of guys rallied around me because they felt it was screwed. The way he handled the business, it was screwed up. So, it's just a lesson learned, man. And then going on from there and going to San Francisco. It didn't work out there. Me and Mariucci, we didn't see eye to eye. They released me halfway through the season. And, I was like, what the heck? Just going to San Francisco, I'm like, man, my family get to see me play all the time. There's Jerry Rice, there's Steve Young, some really good players on that team that I grew up playing against and watching on TV. And when they released me, it was no big deal. I've been released before. And, the phone started ringing. Minnesota was the first team to reach out. Denny Green, God rest his soul. And I think we were playing, the 49ers the next weekend. He was like, there's no better way to stick it to him than come here and play against you. Say, well, you'll start right away. And I was like, Minnesota? I was like, I don't really know anybody in Minnesota. It's cold as heck there. And then the Washington Redskins, which is now the Washington football team, called. And I was like, man, Darrell Green got on the phone and, being in the NFC East all those years, playing against the Redskins, and just being a fan of Darrell Green growing up as well. I was like, man, what are the chances I get a chance to play with Darrell Green? And they had Champ Bailey as well. I was like, man, it's an opportunity for us to groom this young man because he was so talented. Obviously he ended up being in the Hall of Fame, but we had a really good run, man. We were 2 games away from the Super Bowl, which is still eating at us to this day. But I had a good 8-year career, man, so I can't complain.
Yeah. So, you ended your career in Washington, as you just mentioned. So when did you kind of decide you were ready to hang up the cleats, and kind of what factored into that decision?
I did try out again for the Detroit Lions. I felt like I still had a lot of left in the tank. We had just 2 games away from the Super Bowl. I'm playing in the defense with Champ and Darrell Green, and I'm thinking like, okay, well, I can at least play nickel, somewhere. And I think the incident in San Francisco with me and Bill Walsh, God rest his soul, we got into it. And, it was a verbal altercation that I just felt as a man, you should handle it different. And, a lot of people put him on the pedestal, but the way things transpired in San Francisco, I don't think you should treat anybody like that. I don't care who you are. And when I went to Detroit, had a great workout. And they said, first thing I'll sit down and talk to the coach, he said, so what happened in San Francisco? And I'm thinking like, wait a minute, I just left Washington. We just had a great season. We won the division, 2 games away from the Super Bowl. You guys want to know what happened in San Francisco? So I knew the word had gotten out that, me and Bill had gotten into an altercation. And pretty much after that, man, no teams really wanted to touch me. So I don't know if I was blackballed or whatever. And then they end up signing the guy it was our W. McCorders, and it was me in San Francisco who ended up being starters. And Darnell Walker was the starter, and he got beat out. So Detroit ended up signing Darnell Walker, who was our 3rd string cornerback, to Detroit. So I knew, I was like, oh, there's, it's just a bunch of bull. But it just goes to show you, man, that game is crucial, man. You just got to watch what you say. But me being in Philadelphia, playing with some really tough guys, we just didn't take any bull crap in Philly, man. And that was the way I was groomed. Just go out and fight for everything you want, and don't let anybody walk over you.
Yeah, man. Well, you did have a very good career. So, kind of since retirement, you kind of went from the gridiron to the grill a little bit. I know you got into coaching a little bit. So when did you kind of fall in love with grilling? And then when did you realize you kind of wanted to pursue it as a career?
Yeah, the old school backyard barbecues, man, with my uncles back in the day, in LA, there were always something on the grill. I just always used to just watch my grandma cook in the kitchen. And, obviously being alone in Alabama and then being drafted and being alone, I was like, man, I can't just be eating fast food all the time. I got to learn how to cook. So, I've just been cooking for a while. And now over the last, I would say 5 or 6 years, a couple of buddy of mine's in Arizona, we just started blending seasonings, and we actually came out with like 6 good seasonings that I have as well that's going to launch hopefully in the next couple of months. And man, I see I grill like 3-4 days a week, and I'm always on the grill, man. I love it. And teamed up with this meat company in Chicago, guy with Scott and Mike. It's called Happy to Meet You, and they're my meat supplier. And things just start kind of taking off, and now we got the Grill McMillian flavor pack, where you can order that online for $129. Hint, $129. My 29 was my number. Yeah. So it's just kind of taken off, man. And now I got to shoot a pilot here today for a couple of guys that I'm going to be doing Zoom grilling for these guys, between 30 and 40 clients, just Zoom grilling and bourbon and wine. So it's just taking a whole another step, man. Sponsored by Weed Sellers. I know weed, people think of weed, they're like, oh guys, it's marijuana. So it's definitely not weed, marijuana, but the company is Weed Sellers. Stands for We Embrace Equality and Diversity. And when I saw that, man, I was like, with everything's going on in the world, man, I was like, that's a company that I want to stand behind. Somebody that's willing to put their money where their mouth is, and not be afraid to shy away from like, yo, we embrace everything. We're not going to shy away from anything. So I'm real excited to partner up with Weed Sellers, man. It's a great company, great staff, and I'm just excited, man. Grill McMillian, we're rolling, baby.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. I got to try some of that food one of these days. I'm definitely going to be popping your seasoning for sure. So you got 3 more questions for you. One of them, because you play for the Kansas City Chiefs, I got to ask you, man, who you got in the Super Bowl on Sunday?
On my weekly ESPN segment yesterday, I did pick the Chiefs. I said 35-42. And everybody's like, wow, that's like, here in Vegas, they're all about their gambling and their point spreads. I don't give a crap about a point spread, but I really feel once things settle down, Tom Brady, they scored touchdowns. That was one thing that Green Bay didn't do. They were kicking field goals. The Saints, they didn't score touchdowns in key situations. They were kicking field goals. You can't kick field goals in your way to the Super Bowl. And these are 2 offenses that are high powered. Obviously, the Chiefs have their 2 tackles that's out. That's going to be big because Tampa Bay can really get after the quarterback. And they got, 2 guys in the COVID protocol. So anything can happen, man. Today, somebody can come out and be on the COVID list. So, with that going on, I still pick the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think the offense is just so explosive. But then you think, like, when you bet against Tom Brady, he always comes on top. And it's like, he's been to 10 Super Bowls. Like that's like ridiculous. And Patrick Mahomes is one of the bright stars of our league. And with Kelsey and the Cheetah, man, it's just really hard to stop that offense, man. So it's going to be a great game. But I'm also pulling for the Kansas City Chiefs. But Bruce Arians, what he's done with that organization, Brian Leftwich, who's African American, their special teams coach is African American. The defensive coordinator, Todd, is an African-American. What Bruce is able to do, they have a female coach on their staff. You talk about diversity and giving people an opportunity, man. They're doing it the right way. So I know a lot of people are pulling for Bruce like they were pulling for Andy to win that first one in Kansas City. And, if he ends up winning it, man, that it'd be no greater coach to be able to get that Super Bowl victory than Coach Arians.
Yeah, and I was writing about it yesterday. They both have 2 Super Bowl rings, both Andy Reid and Bruce Arians, but Bruce doesn't have one as a head coach yet. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how, going in that first Super Bowl as a head coach, how he's going to handle all that. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a good game. So, kind of transitioning, who's the best player you've ever played with and played against? That's a tough one, but I got to ask.
Man, I know there's going to be some dudes over here that probably hear the podcast and be like, yo, what?
Shout them out, bro. Mention multiple. Who cares?
The best player I played with, man, that's a real tough one, man. I would say between Darrell Green, I'm just thinking of defensive backs. I would say Darrell Green and Eric Allen are probably two of the best defensive backs. I can't forget Dale Carter either, man. He was, if you talk to a lot of guys around the league, if Dale Carter would have took football real serious like he should have, he would have been a shoo-in Hall of Famer. This dude was amazing. But Dale Carter, I would just say, Dale Green and Eric Allen, man, as far as the defensive group. But there's Reggie Wright, man, there's Derek Thomas, there's Randall, there's Herschel. There's so many players that I had an opportunity to play with, man. I just can't name one.
I know. Yeah, it's impossible. Is there any like particular receiver that you lined up against in your career that you were like, man, this dude's hard to cover?
It was Gary Clark, from the Washington Redskins. Well, back then it was the Washington Redskins, but he was a guy that matched my intensity. He didn't take any bull crap. He was a shorter guy, probably like 5'9", I think Gary was, but he was strong and he was quick, just like me. Usually the taller guys like Jerry and Mike and Chris Carter, I was able to, use my quickness to kind of, combat their size. But Gary Clark, man, he was a tough cover. I knew when, it's not a small task. I'm not taking anything away from Jerry and Mike and all Andre Reed. I guarded some really good receivers that got gold jackets. But Gary Clark, man, he was a guy that I knew, like, God dang it, this dude is good. Like, I had to be on my game for 60 minutes at all times. And, hats off to him, man. He's a great dude. I still keep in contact with him. And, when I tell him that story, he's like, what? He's like, me? But, dude, he ran really good routes. I know another guy that's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame soon as well was up for it. It's Isaac Bruce. He didn't say too much. He wasn't a rah-rah guy, but his route running, the old school guy, Henry Ellert, played for the Rams back in the day. He was older, but he spit me around like a top one time. And I was like, God dang, he's like damn near 40. And he's still juicing me up. So it was some really good guys that had trouble with. But I would say Gary Clark for me was the most receiver that I didn't like to guard.
Yeah, for sure. One more question for you, Mark, and I appreciate all your time today so far. So my podcast is always kind of about, inspiring the youth, stuff like that. I know you do that all the time as a coach and, through your social media presence, all that stuff. So I got to ask you got any advice for the young kids out there chasing their pro football dreams, chasing maybe even adults, like chasing, career milestones, stuff like that? What kind of advice can you pass along to the listeners?
I would just say stay persistent. Like I say, surround yourself with good people, because there's a lot of people that don't want to see you win. There's a lot of people that want to, jump on the boat after you're being successful as to, when you're grinding, when you're starting off your podcast, people are like, whatever. Then all of a sudden you start making a name for yourself. Then everybody wants to jump on board. They're like, oh man, that's my guy. I knew he can do it. So, just got to stay humble, work hard because nothing's going to come easy. Because, a lot of people with me launching the website and all this, they're like, oh, well, he's only getting recognition because he played in the National Football League. And I know people, I hear that. I was like, wait a minute, I'm working in this kitchen. I'm blending seasonings. I'm freaking grilling. I'm burning meat. I'm learning how to cook different meats and sides and all that. So I'm putting in the work as well. So you just got to block out the naysayers and just keep grinding, man. And everybody's not going to make it to the National Football League or to the NBA. And, and it doesn't last forever. You got to be able to do something else after sports as well. So me creating my own brand and recreating it, it's been a long process. People just see it now and be like, oh my gosh, he's like, no, I've been doing this for like 6 or 7 years, man. So now it's starting to pay off in a lot of ways. And, for the young kids out there, man, everybody's not going to go D1. I think I tweeted that out today. I went to a junior college and still made made my dreams come to reality. Just keep your faith, keep God first. You see all these uniform combos and coaches tweeting out and all this stuff, but every year they do the same thing. So I tell these kids, you can't get caught up in all the social media stuff because they're going to recruit somebody next year to replace you. And it's like that in the National Football League with the draft. They're drafting players to upgrade every year and to replace you. So, you just got to stay humble through the process, keep your head down, keep good people around you. and, make good choices. And, that's something, we always say to our kids before they walk out of the door is make good choices.
Mm-hmm. Mark McMillian, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you hopping on the show today, brother. And I'm definitely going to be tuned in. Make sure you guys are all checking out his website. I'll link it down below. Get your stuff some good grilling tips and all that good stuff, man. Like, just stay tuned. I'm going to be tuned in for sure. But make sure everyone listening stays tuned too. So I appreciate you once again for hopping on the show today.
Oh, no worries, man. Keep up the good work, man. Anytime you need a little love or some shout outs or some guys, man, let me know. I'll hook you up, man.
I appreciate you. Have a good one.
Oh, you too.